Wait, hold on. I'm here. Sorry, hold on. Sorry about that. Whew. All right, testing 1 2 1 2. Cool, we're recording. Well, sorry I've been gone. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. This week's project is a little bit different than what I've been working on before. We're not doing woodworking. We are building some fiberglass trays for my house bank batteries. I wanted to do this project using materials I already had. So we got some scrap wood, some sheets of fiberglass I had laying around, the epoxy I've been using for woodworking. And with that, I'm hoping to build some nice support trays for my house bank batteries. So why don't we go ahead and get into it. So today's goal is to actually measure out the batteries and start creating a mold for the battery box. So this is the house bank batteries. I've got 3 Group 27 batteries here, and right now they're just kind of loose in the box. It's dangerous for them to be like that, and frankly I should have done this sooner, but there's not a lot of room in here, so I want to measure them out and figure out how big I can make the tray that they will be sitting on. And the goal is, after I make the tray, I'll pull them out, set them down on it, and rewire everything back the way it was. These things are incredibly heavy, so I'm planning on pulling them out after I have everything built. And once I have measured them out, I'll go ahead and make a mold out of some scrap wood and get to fiberglass. Alright, so to recap, the plan is to take the 3 batteries, build a tray for them, put them in the tray, and then strap them down into that tray so that they are not going to shift around inside of the battery box. I've already gone ahead and taken the measurements. The box itself is about 17 inches by 22 inches, and the batteries are 12 inches by 6.5 inches each. So what I want to do now is make a mold for a 12 by 6.5 inch rectangle that I can use to mold the fiberglass into little trays that these batteries will sit in. So I have a crudely constructed rectangular prism now. I've coated it in some plastic sheeting that the epoxy does not stick to. The next step will be to, once the weather clears up, take a sheet of fiberglass, lay it over the top, throw some epoxy on, and let it cure. So, yesterday I made the box and it started raining, so I had to wait until today. But I have the box covered in fiberglass mat. You can see that I taped it onto the box to kind of keep it in shape while I apply the resin. The next step is to mix up a cup of resin and apply it nice and smooth to the top and to the sides. I'm not going to go all the way down to the end because I'd like to be able to cut this off, get about 2.5 inches of the lip out of that. So let's go ahead and mix up my 5-to-1 epoxy. Now when you're stirring your epoxy, I'm of the mindset that there's no such thing as too much stirring. I like to get it nice and mixed and blended to make sure that the reaction is going to happen evenly throughout. If this was a structural component, we would want to try to take the bubbles out of that. But most of the fiberglass work I'm ever going to do on this boat by myself is going to be cosmetic or, low-grade structural components like what I'm working on right now. Now, I'm going to have to let this cure overnight, but one thing I thought about while I was driving home from the store earlier is how I'm going to mount this into the box. So tomorrow what I'll do is I'll come back and flip it over and then put some fiberglass tabs on the bottom of it. That way I can screw these trays into the battery box that's already in the boat and not have to worry about putting a hole in this area. And also I need to put the strap on the back, so I can do that all in one piece of fiberglass just right on top. So we'll come back and check on it tomorrow. So, the first one is off the mold. It is a lot more bendy than I thought it would be. So today's plan is to take some of this fiberglass and reinforce it. I'd also like to add a few tabs that kind of stick out on the bottom. That way I can screw it down to the base of the current battery box without having to worry about it slipping around, and also not putting screws inside. I'm also going to go ahead and take some of the fiberglass and put it back on the mold to make number 2. Alright, box 2 is curing. Box 1, it looks like trash, but don't worry. After it cures, I'll be able to clean up a lot of the bits by just cutting off the stringers and whatnot. Hey guys, it's Josh. Quick note before anybody tries to comment on this. These guys are not a structural component, and they do not need to be perfect. That is why there are bubbles and imperfections in the fiberglass. I know that it would normally not be okay, but trust me, it is perfectly fine for this project. Just wanted to get ahead of the comments on that. I've got little tabs now on both sides that I can use for mounting, and there's a whole another sheet of fiberglass down in the bottom to help reinforce it. I'll probably have to come back tomorrow and touch up any of the areas that epoxy didn't really adhere to, especially on this side. I ran out of epoxy and couldn't get to it in time, but that'll be a lot easier to do than it looks like. Yeah, cool. So I've got 1, 2, and 3 curing right now. Hopefully in the next 24 hours these 2 will be done. That one will still need to be reinforced, and hopefully we'll have them in the battery box by the weekend. Alright, so all 3 of the boxes are ready for the last step before we put them into the actual boat. So I have these battery straps that I picked up from West Marine. I've already cut them in half, and the plan is to take some epoxy and basically glue them onto either side of the box. I'll then take a small strip of fiberglass and put it over the top of that. I'll then clamp it together, wait for it to cure, and then we'll be able to put them right in the boat. Alright, I've got all 3 curing now. They will sit here until probably sometime after lunch, then I'll come back and clean them up, get them ready to go into the boat, and probably later this afternoon I'll actually do that. That way they can cure overnight and in place and be ready for sailing tomorrow. So to conclude the project, I have the trays ready to go in. I need to disconnect all the cabling from the batteries, which means that the power has to get shut off, meaning that there's not going to be light, meaning I'm not going to film it. So I'll have to take these off one at a time and insert the tray underneath the battery and then strap it in and rewire everything. And hopefully in the next hour or so I will have this project finished.